For decades, if you were dealing with chronic dizziness, the whole approach felt, well, frustrating. It was basically a game of coaching the brain to cope with bad, staticky information from a failing balance system. But what if we could stop coaching and actually start repairing? We are on the cusp of a whole new era, one that goes way beyond just managing symptoms and gets right to fixing the hardware at ground zero.
Think about it like this. The old approach was all about software compensation. You're basically trying to get the brain, the software, to write a bunch of clever code to work around a faulty signal. The new approach? It's hardware restoration. We're done trying to patch the software. We are going right to the source to repair the physical circuit itself.
Now, to really get why this is such a game changer, you first have to appreciate the incredible piece of engineering we're even talking about. The sheer scale of our vestibular nerve is just mind-boggling, and understanding that scale is the key to understanding the solution.
So, to wrap our heads around this, let's start with a simple analogy. Just picture a standard copper electrical wire. The kind that's probably inside the walls of your house right now. It's a perfect baseline for what we're about to see. That wire, a 14-gauge copper wire, is just about 1.63 millimeters across. It's pretty thin, right? Okay, lock that size in your mind, because we're about to scale things up big time.
See, your vestibular nerve isn't just one wire. Oh no, it's a bundle of about 20,000 individual neural fibers. So let's play a little game. What happens if we take every single one of those 20,000 fibers and scale them up to the size of that household copper wire?
The result would be an industrial cable a staggering 9 inches in diameter. I mean, just picture that. That is the insane amount of data carrying capacity we're talking about, all packed into a tiny little nerve that has to snake its way through a tiny canal in your skull. It just shows you how incredibly dense this system really is. But wait a second, here's where it gets even cooler. The inner ear has about 80,000 sensory cells. So if each one got its own dedicated copper wire, our 9-inch cable would double to a ridiculous 18 inches thick. There's no way that would fit. This is what we call the convergence paradox. An evolution solution is nothing short of brilliant. It doesn't just add more wires, it uses smarter wiring. So how does this incredibly dense and efficient system actually work? Well, it's not a one-way street. It is a full-on two-way circuit. Just think of it like a constant conversation. First, you've got the afferent highway, which is all these sensory data flooding in from the ear up to the brain. But then you have the efferent loop, and this sends control signals out from the brain back to the ear. It's a mixed nerve, which means it's in a constant state of feedback and adjustment. Okay, let's look at that data in pathway, because this is where you see that smart wiring in action. Type 2 hair cells use something called Boutone terminals. Here, one nerve fiber can connect to 10, 20, even 30 different sensor cells at once. It's perfect for getting a general big picture sense of your motion. But for super fast, high priority movements, like say slamming on the brakes, you need a clearer signal. That's where the type 1 cells come in. They use a special calyx terminal that basically shrink wraps just a few cells, creating this super fast, high fidelity data stream right to the brain. And what about the control out pathway? Well, these efferent fibers are like the system's special forces. They are incredibly rare. We're talking only about 1 for every 20 of the incoming fibers. They start in a specific part of the brainstem, and they act like the system's master volume knob. This gives the brain the amazing ability to literally reach back into the ear and either turn down the volume on a signal right at the sensor or filter it out before it even gets to the brain. Okay, so we have this beautiful, high-tech, two-way circuit. So what's going wrong in chronic balance problems? Well, the issue isn't what most of us assume. It's not usually that the whole cable has been snapped. It's something much more subtle, and in a way, much more hopeful. The core of the problem, in many cases, is something called synaptic uncoupling. So picture our giant 9-inch cable, and imagine the thousands of tiny little branches at the very end. What happens is that those branches literally pull back. They retract from the sensors they're supposed to be listening to. So the main nerve, the main cable, is still totally alive and intact, but the ends are effectively unplugged from the wall socket. And this quote just nails it. You can't just exercise a nerve to plug itself back in. This is why traditional therapy so often hits a hard wall. The brain is trying its best. It's running the balance software perfectly. But the hardware it's plugged into is, well, it's a dead socket. The signal is just gone.
So, if the problem is an unplugged wire, the solution seems kind of obvious, doesn't it? We need to plug it back in. And this is where everything pivots. We're now talking about a biological repair kit, a set of tools that can act like an electrician for our own nervous system. And listen, this isn't science fiction. The groundwork for this was being laid decades ago. All the way back in 1988, scientists figured out that some of the cells in the ear weren't just for support. They were actually sleeper cells that could help regenerate. Then, in '96, a huge study proved that a biological fuel called BDNF could physically rescue and regrow these nerve connections. The potential has been sitting there the whole time. Today, that early research has evolved into a full-on biological toolkit. BDNF is still the star player. It's like the fuel that tells the nerve endings to re-sprout and go find their socket again. But you also have other agents that help create the perfect environment for this regrowth, and even some that help shield and stabilize the brain's control neurons, restoring that all-important volume knob. So, what does this all mean when you put it all together? Well, it is a massive, fundamental shift in how we even think about vestibular care. We are finally moving away from just managing a problem and toward true biological restoration. This metaphor just says it all. The old role of a therapist was to be a software coach. You were helping the brain find clever ways to adapt to a bad signal. The new role? It's being a biological electrician. You're helping the body actually repair the hardware, so the signal that gets to the brain is crystal clear in the first place. And that just changes the entire goal. We're not just trying to help people cope with being dizzy anymore. The new goal is to restore that high-fidelity, high-definition input that the brain was designed to get so it can do its job and keep you feeling steady, clear, and confident on your feet. So this all leaves us with a pretty powerful and exciting question. For the millions of people who live with these chronic issues, this isn't just some interesting science. It's a real beacon of hope. It asks us all to imagine a future where we don't just manage a broken system, but instead we actually help the body do what it's designed to do, to heal itself. What will that future look like? I, for one, am really excited to find out.